Most players have no idea how to play Badoogie beyond the basics. But today I'm going to separate you from your competition by giving you 3 advanced tips that make you a beast at the poker table. Thanks for visiting the channel. I'm 2 and I love playing poker, especially mixed poker games. I'm the former director of poker operations at a major Las Vegas casino. I've won tens of thousands of dollars playing mixed games, and I've even made it to a few final tables. So let's go ahead and assume that you're going to get a lot of value out of this video. So do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe, like, and click the alert button, and we're going to go ahead and dive right in. Now, the tips that we are getting ready to discuss are advanced Badoogie poker tips. If you don't know how to play Badoogie, you need to start at the Badoogie Poker 101 video that is also on my channel, and that will teach you all of the basics. So let's go ahead and dive in with tip number 1, the dreaded 8. I think it's because of games like 7-card stud 8 or better, or Omaha 8 or better, or even Archie, where there is an 8 low qualifier, that players hold on to the 8. In Badoogie, this is a mistake. You should never be drawing to an 8 or worse on the first 2 draws in Badoogie. And to illustrate this point, let's take a look at the following example. Let's say you're dealt an Ace-3-8 and you're up against Ace-2-3, Ace-3-5, 2-4-7, where everyone is going to be drawing 1 card. As you can tell by the stats next to the hands, the Ace-2-3 is a 48% favorite to win the hand, and the Ace-3-8 is behind all other draws if you keep the 8. So this is where a lot of beginning Badoogie players get into trouble, is they draw to an 8 and it puts them in a bad situation or circumstance. So you don't ever want to draw to an 8 on the first or second draw. And if you just take advantage of this one tip, it will definitely improve your Badoogie game. Tip number 2 is to always, always, always draw smooth, or from the bottom up. See, unlike Deuce to 7 and Ace to 5, which you still want to draw smooth in those too, you don't often have to improve your hand to take down the pot in Badoogie. In Deuce to 7 and Ace to 5, you're likely going to have to outdraw your opponents, but in Badoogie, a good 3-card draw will often take down the pot without improving. So let's go over an example. Let's say you have 2 players in a hand and you have Ace-2-3 and you're up against 3-6-7. You've got 1 draw left and you all are both drawing 1 card. Both of you are going to miss the draw 50% of the time. But it doesn't matter if you have the Ace-2-3 hand, because you're still going to take down the pot. And that's a big difference with Badoogie as opposed to Deuce to 7 or Ace to 5. So if you start drawing smooth, you increase your likelihood of winning the pot even when you don't make your Badoogie. And similarly to tip number 1, because people are thinking about that 8 qualifier, they often are choosing any 3 cards that are 8 or below in order to draw to. And that's just a big problem. You want to make sure you have the Ace-Deuce in your hand for sure, and Ace-2-3 is just a premium hand all the way around. Let's look at the stats associated with it. If you have an Ace-2-3, you are almost an 80% favorite compared to Ace-3-4. That's how big a difference the deuce is. Drawing smooth is even more important when you're drawing 2 cards. So let's look at the example with Ace-Deuce. Ace-Deuce is only slightly behind compared to 7-6-5, even though you're drawing 2 cards. So that's why it's even more important to make sure you start off hands with Ace-Deuce in it. And if you have Ace-2-3, raise, raise, raise. When you have an Ace-2, Ace-2-3 in your hand, it makes it easier to know when you should and should not break. And what I mean by that is it makes the decision to break a bad card a lot easier. So let's take a look at this example. If you have Ace-2-3, 10, let's say, Badoogie, and you get raised by someone who is representing a strong hand after a couple of draws, then you can break your 10, throw it away, draw a new card, and you have a much better chance of winning if you hit your Badoogie again. But let's say you had a 9-8-7-5 Badoogie instead. Well, what difference does it make if you get raised and you need to break? If you break your 9, you still got an 8 Badoogie, which means you're probably still losing. So if you start off with Ace-Deuce or Ace-2-3 and you need to break, you're in a much stronger position, and it kind of puts your hand on autopilot as opposed to having high cards like 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, etc. And if you have to break then, you are likely still not going to win the pot even if you make another Badoogie. And so that brings us to tip number 3, when to snow. If you are unfamiliar with the term snow, snowing is just another word for bluffing that is used in triple draw games, and you need to know when to do it if you are going to be an advanced Badoogie player. So when do you snow when playing Badoogie? Well, you want to start thinking about it as soon as the cards are dealt to you, but you really aren't going to start putting it into action until probably the second draw. There are a few things that you want to take into account when considering a snow. The first is going to be your table image. Do you have a solid table image where you're constantly flipping over strong hands? Then you probably can get away with more snows. What about your opponents? Are they loose callers and they're calling all hands? You might not want to try and snow as much in that particular situation. And then you also need to take into account your position. I actually think it's better to snow when you are out of position than when you are in position. And that's because you're going to give up less equity when you are snowing out of position. So take those 3 factors into account when determining whether or not a snow is appropriate for your hand. So let's talk about when is a good opportunity to set up a snow. Let's look at the following hand example. Let's say you were dealt ace 5-5-6 with 3 spades, and you toss the 5 and 6 of spades on the first draw and you pull the 3 and 7 of spades. At this point, you've seen 5 low spades that your opponents likely need, and this sets up a great opportunity to snow. And what I mean by that is you're going to want to bet and then stay pat on the second draw, meaning don't take any more cards. You're going to repeat the process on the third draw. You are going to bet and not take any more cards by staying pat. That is a tremendous sign of strength. Now, obviously, your opponents are going to probably be down to 1 draw on the third draw, and that means they have a 50% chance of hitting their hand, but a bet there is going to likely get them to fold, and even if they hit their hand, they might hit a high Badoogie like a king, queen, or jack Badoogie, and then how good can they be? They have to respect your strength that you show by not taking any cards on the second and third draw, and this increases your likelihood of winning. So, when should you snow? When you have a good table image, when your opponents are tight, when you are out of position, and when you've seen a lot of the same suit that your opponents are going to likely need. Those are all great candidates for when you should run a snow, and if you incorporate that tip, then you are going to become a profitable Badoogie player. So there you have it, 3 advanced Badoogie poker tips that are going to help you become more profitable at your next Badoogie game. Tip number 1, stay away from the dreaded 8. Don't draw to 8s in Badoogie. Tip number 2, draw from the bottom up. Make sure you have an ace and deuce in your hand as often as possible. And tip number 3, start thinking about snowing more often, and especially start thinking about it on the second draw. Hopefully these tips help you out a lot, and if they did, make sure to check out some of my other videos on Badoogie, Badoogie, Deuce to 7, Ace to 5. I think you'll enjoy those as well, and may the poker gods be with you.